Joining us now, he's a Libertarian. He's running for U.S. Senate. He's been on my show before. He's a really interesting dude. And some polls have him at 7 or 8%. If the Libertarian Party in Virginia hits 10%, then they get ballot status. And I think he's going to get very close to that. His name is Matt Waters, and he is the Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate in Virginia. Matt, good to have you back, man.
Yeah, John, great to be here. I'm always energized to do the show.
Because it's a lot of fun, and we have great listeners. And don't forget, we want to welcome all of our new listeners on our new radio station we just bought, WJFN 100.5 FM, Richmond, Goochland, Charlottesville. It's all there. Henrico, Short Pump. So we're fired up about that. More information, go to WJFNradio.com. So tell me about the president now. You're a Libertarian. You're running for U.S. Senate, right?
Yes, sir.
So
yes.
The president yesterday saying, you know what, I'm not going to let these illegals that are bum rushing the border come in. He's now ordered 15,000 troops to go to the border. Basically, they're going to secure it. They're going to put up barbed wire, barriers, and they're going to bring the civil engineers. But they're not going to let them in because the president knows the minute you step foot, it's over. How do you respond to that?
Well, John, I mean, I think you listened to me on your program 2 weeks ago, and you said, Matt, how do you solve the problem? I said, well, you move troops down. You move troops down. You have a governor in Texas who can order the National Guard to go to the border, and I'd prefer to see it that way and do a little states' rights action here. But either way, you know, libertarians often get hit as open border folks, and some of us are, right? The great Milton Friedman, the economist, said, hey, I'd be for open borders were it not for this giant welfare state we have. And you know, look, we're a rule of law party, and we believe in the rule of law, and you can't, you know, allow this sort of thing to happen. And again, my suggestion on your show a few weeks ago, John, was we have, you know, 42,000 folks sitting in South Korea, 45 in Germany, and 50,000 in Japan. Move them to the United States of America, bring the troops home, and have them defend the United States of America like the Constitution says.
So you agree with me, Matt Waters, you can't let this 10,000 in, right? You just can't do it. Because if they get in, there's two more waves coming behind them. And it isn't going to be 10,000, Matt, it's going to be 100,000, right? So you can't let this happen. Now, what about the president yesterday who said he would do an executive order to eliminate the birthright provision? How do you stand on that?
Yeah, you look, I tell you, Trump, it's always a new day, right? It's clearly going to present a constitutional challenge because the 14th Amendment says, you know, if you're born in this country, you're naturalized. I was talking to somebody the other day. He said, well, about this very question. I said, well, what makes you a United States citizen? He was upset, and I said, well, he said, I was born here. Exactly. Well, that's kind of the point. So, you know, it's going to be clearly challenged. You know, I think this conversation is a good one. I mean, I think we need to look at how do we define American? You know, you take a driver's ed test in a place like California, and you can walk into the DMV there and take the test in 40 different languages.
Right.
You know, my grandparents came here through Ellis Island from the Czech Republic. My maternal grandparents, and they learned English. You know, they got acclimated to our culture, and you know, clearly there's you know, disunity there. And you know, I would, you know, I think a lot could be on the table here. We can discuss these things and have this conversation.
I know you're a fan of Rand Paul. He has said in the U.S. Senate, Rand Paul has said that as soon as the midterms are done and the lame duck session starts, that he is going to go to the Senate and he's going to put in legislation and a debate to get the United States disinvolved or get out of the civil war in Yemen. He's also going to take up Afghanistan, what's going on there. If you're elected to the U.S. Senate, Matt, how do you stand on those two issues specifically, and why?
Yeah, so Rand's exactly right. I don't think he goes far enough. I mean, I think we need to end all foreign aid across the board because we can't afford it. It's not because I don't like Israel or I don't like Saudi. Well, I don't necessarily care for Saudi Arabia, a rogue nation. You know, I would say absolutely. You know, we spent $5.7 trillion in a 15-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and my conservatives will say, well, what's the cost? It's the cost of freedom. Well, let's run the numbers on that. It costs every American about $20,000 to have troops in Iraq and Afghanistan for the last 15 years, and also cost dearly the lives of 6,500 of those troops. So this is it's a big, I think our involvement overseas is unconstitutional. We tend to chime in on just about everything around the globe, and the instincts there that Rand's talking about are exactly the right ones. And I would also challenge the president on the $100 billion arms sale deal with the Saudis. We're selling arms made in USA bombs that are being dropped on school buses in Yemen. And, John, the Yemenis, they're not going to forget that those bombs are made in the United States of America. I think we got to think about who we are as a country. Do we want to be the greatest exporter of military equipment, the most sophisticated military equipment around the globe, to countries like the Saudi Arabians? I'd say hell no. That's absolutely absurd. And, I think we need to really rethink this. And I get why we're doing it, because we have a vast military-industrial complex. Bombs are made in 435 congressional districts, and that's why you have Democrats and Republicans, for the most part, are in absolute agreement that we keep doing these things. And there's very little outcry over this.
It's one of the untold stories, Matt, as you know, in America, and there's very little outcry across any outlets, whether it be CNN or anyone else except me,
right?
Because I understand the dastardly power of the military-industrial complex. And I'll tell you something else. If Fox News and CNN, NBC and ABC every night started to show pictures of what is going on in the Yemeni civil war, if they started to show pictures of babies starving to death, of moms stripping bark and leaves off trees and feeding them to their children, mashing them up with grass, if anybody had any idea what was going on there, there would be outrage in the United States beyond belief, but it's not shown. Right? You can't find it.
Yeah.
I go on Al Jazeera. My network is Al Jazeera Arabic. I'm on them every day. So I get involved in it because I see the pictures and we actually interview people that are there. But it's horrific what is going on. And the fact that we're supplying bombs, the Saudis can't fly an airplane, Matt, without us. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And nobody will talk about it.
Yeah, picking winners and losers globally is something our founding fathers deliberately strayed away from. I mean, I'm calling for a Virginia peace plan, John, in my platform that avoids foreign entanglements, but freely trades with everybody. And I think, when we look at the Chinese that are persecuting Christians in Falun Gong and Muslims, there are human rights abuses happening around the globe. And, Reagan used to lead on this. The conservatives used to lead on this and show leadership internationally based on violations of human rights. We don't do it anymore. Right. A journalist is killed in Turkey, and Trump says, "Hey, let's keep the deal going." So that's what I think. That's just, again, he says it, but he says exactly what both parties are saying. Well, let's keep the deal going because that means an awful lot of money, a lot of bacon back home in our district.
Well, I mean, in that case, basically what he said is if they don't buy the equipment from us, they're going to buy it from the Chinese or the Russians. But he did stake that position out. But the bigger picture is, why are we involved in the Yemeni civil war? Why do we send another 10,000 troops to Afghanistan? We've been there for 2 decades. There's no end in sight. And let's just, have the debate. As you know, we've talked about this, Matt, before. There needs to be a new AUMF. I mean, we're operating on an AUMF authorization for military force that was passed after 9/11 in 2001. You would be in favor of reinstating that or debating it, right?
Absolutely. And no question. I mean, I think we just need to look at what we're doing. I mean, it comes down to numbers and dollars and cents. I mean, we have these forward-facing bases that are very expensive. And I'm not a peacenik. I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, we just give up our arms." And although, by the way, Gorbachev had some really good points. I don't know if you saw his op-ed in the New York Times, and I thought it was very, very profound what he said about us pulling out of certain deals we brokered, Reagan brokered, in fact, back in the 80s. And I think Gorbachev is right. I think Reagan was right to have a downgrade of our weapons. But having said that, John, I'm an advocate of a 600-ship Navy. Again, I'm going to point to Reagan. Reagan was right. First Secretary of Reagan in the Navy was John Lehman, and his strategy and what partly broke the Soviet Union was our plan, not only the SDI, but also a 600-ship Navy and going in that direction. My opponents are for a 355-ship Navy. But to get there, you have to reduce our troops overseas. You have to bring them home. The bricks and mortar we have around the globe in the forward-facing basis, if we can pull out of that and re-strategize our military so that we're on the seas and we own the Navy, which, by the way, is also very constitutional. It's right there in Section 1, Article 8, that we would be far more effective, and you have a force that actually is defending the United States. And heck, I'd even call for renaming of the Department of Defense to the Department of War, like it used to be, because, defending South Korea is not in the Constitution. Defending South Carolina is.
All right, well, that's Department of War. That will be an interesting change. Matt, we're running out of time for this segment. I really want to thank you for your time. Election on Tuesday. Matt, people want more information. Matt Waters, where do they go?
Yeah, go to mattwaters.com, and you'll see all of our parties out there, John. Appreciate you. And by the way, I'm a big advocate of Liberty Share. My family's on Liberty Share. I heard the commercial. I tell you, it's great, and that's one of my healthcare plans. Look at the nonprofit and the charitable sector to drop your healthcare costs. We reduced our costs over 65% from one year to the next, and I tell you, Americans, if you want to reduce your costs by that much, look at something like Liberty Share. I sort of echo that. So, good work.
Appreciate that. LibertyHealthShare.com. LibertyHealthShare.com. I've been on it since the Obamacare thing went down. And our premiums for a family of three went up to $1,000 a month. I couldn't pay it. So basically, we were just going to have no insurance to pay the fine. Finally, Ann, my wife, found it. We've been on it since 2011 now. So an 8-year period we've been on it, 7-year period. It's great. And I got myself out of the whole thing. I'm just not involved in it. I'm not involved. I cover it, but I'm not involved in it. Because my family has
you did the Libertarian thing. You're going around government.
You're going around the government, and it works better. It's better than the stuff that I had that I was paying all this money for, and it's better because it's like cash. I don't have memory. You have to open up the book, and is the doctor in the coverage thing or whatever that was? I don't even know what that's called anymore because I don't deal with any of that.
Yeah, no. Here. Yeah, I'm part of Liberty Share. You're exactly right.
Liberty
I was talking to the executive director over there. Great company, good work, and look forward to the election. Yeah, absolutely. Get out and vote. Take a look at us and vote your conscience, but take a look at our platform and give us a shot.
All right, Matt. Thank you. Thanks for being with us. Good luck on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Matt Waters, Libertarian, running for U.S. Senate. Could get 7, 8, 9, or 10%. We'll have to see. Could be the highest ever.